From being the company that was once at the forefront of electronic vehicle innovation to encountering a multitude of manufacturing challenges throughout its history, it seems like Tesla just cannot catch a break. But what's happened this time? Well, in the past, Tesla's been wrongly accused of having faulty machines many a time, for personal gains or to ruin the company's name. But that's not the case this time. In fact, if you remove the fraudulent accusations, the company still has quite a few issues in its history. So now, the safety regulators in the US have opened an investigation into Tesla's Model Y SUV after two very concerning complaints were received. For both investigations, the vehicles were sent to the owners with a bolt missing from the steering wheel. That's already very scary to hear, but that's not even the start. Because for each of the two reported incidents, the steering wheel came off while the car was in motion. How and why did this happen? Well, that's what the investigation is in place for. But for now, careful assessments reveal that the bolt that was missing from the vehicle was supposed to hold the wheel to the steering column. Despite it not being present, a friction fit still did the job by holding the wheel, but it could only do so much. Eventually, when force was introduced into the equation, the two were bound to separate. Of course, further investigation would reveal how concerning the issue is. And to figure it out, around 120,000 Tesla cars from the year 2023 are being considered for the probe. While the number may seem like an overkill, it's sure going to expose if the incident is isolated or exists across the fleet. But that doesn't matter to those who faced the life-threatening event while driving their cars. For example, one of the complainants explained what happened with their car. He was actually driving the Model Y while his family was with him. This is back on January 29th when he was on Route 1 in Woodbridge, New Jersey. There isn't much to what happened except that the steering wheel literally just came off while he was on the road. Surprisingly, this was only 5 days after the car had even been purchased. Thankfully though, nothing serious happened, and given that there were no cars behind the driver, he was able to pull to the side of the road. The complaint that sits with the NHTSA has a lot of legitimacy, hence the probe. But even if some people are reluctant to believe that this is true or not, the complaint actually has a link to a Twitter post that shows the detached steering in all its broken glory. All of that from the POV of a Model Y that's being towed. But here's the gaslighting part. When the owner checked with one of Tesla's service centers, he was told it would cost $104 to fix the problem. Sure, the amount may not be that big, but given that the car is not even a week old, why is the customer expected to pay for this? Thankfully, the center did issue an apology once it realized it wasn't the owner who made an error, but actually something in the manufacturing. But it didn't come without some threats from the car owner too. Instead of fighting about whether it was his fault or not, he decided to apply for a refund. Upon hearing that, the service center completely removed the repair cost and directed him to the relevant department. Although they did mention that Tesla has no return policy. That leaves very few options for the customer, don't you think? Especially once you lose your love for the product you just bought. So yeah, just a heads up if you're looking to buy a Tesla.
That's purchasing full self-driving. It can be difficult to justify $15,000 on software that is not fully there yet and doesn't do what the title says. Most owners completely agree with the fact that the technology is impressive, but some don't agree with spending $15,000 on it.
Not sure if the complaint helped or if an actual realization from the higher-ups that the owner should also be given a chance to replace the vehicle. Not sure if I can think it was the latter though. But for now, we can focus on the fact that this was an actual choice. So yes, he did eventually get his SUV replaced for free at the end. Though, to be fair, while this all may sound very strange to a non-Tesla owner, the steering wheel problem isn't just restricted to Tesla.
So Tesla claims that this performance Model Y will give you an EPA rating of 303 miles. Now, I've taken many road trips to Sedona in Arizona. I've gone to Las Vegas several times, and I can tell you, even leaving my house at 100% charge and setting this to autopilot, the best I'm able to get, realistically, is about 200 to 220 miles.
Only in February, Nissan experienced something very similar. But what makes it more concerning is the fact that the company recalled almost 1,000 vehicles with a similar problem. I mean, how hard is it to install a steering wheel on the column using a bolt? My concern is that in the race of capturing the market, these mainstream car manufacturers are just prioritizing quantity over quality. Otherwise, how could something this important be missed or skipped during the quality check? My guess is that for many of these companies, the Department for Quality Control just doesn't exist. And even if it exists, it's so weak and unprofessional that it's better not to have one at all.
Lots of people have asked me if I see Tesla vehicle prices decreasing, and quite frankly, in my opinion, I do not see that for the near future. We may not see rapid price increases like how they have occurred over the past year, but I think the prices will kind of stay where they're at for now until some really important things get ironed out.
Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, this isn't the first time something of this sort has happened with Tesla either. For example, the NHTSA once made a request to Tesla to demonstrate their partially automated driving assistant. Not just that, they also wanted to know if it would work even if there isn't any imminent threat. So basically, the test was used to see if the autopilot works like it's advertised, or if it can only work in stressful situations. Not to mention, it also wanted to see how the system handles a crash, reflective vests, reflective cat eyes, and floodlights. But wait, I forgot to tell you the reason behind this request. It was actually because Tesla vehicles were crashing into parked emergency vehicles. Yeah, that's wild. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there was another similar crash in Florida where a guy faced something extremely similar. The autopilot had hit a Florida highway patrol car. Not that this is a problem already in itself, but then goes a step further to not only injure a bunch of people, but get one killed as well. 17 people. Can you imagine that? Due to just one car. Not to forget the one who actually died too for similar reasons. To be extra cautious, more than 700,000 vehicles from 2014 to 2021 were selected to be seen in this investigation. But it's not all the company's fault. I mean, you can't just put all the blame on them, especially after how the drivers misused the autopilot, making it as if there's no need for a driver anymore. This is definitely not the case at all, as reiterated by Tesla multiple times. Oh, and that drunk driving problem?
Oh, acceleration, oh boy. Wow, even on the upper side. Man, I'm super impressed with the car. The stability is great. Also the suspension are much more comfortable. Just like that, and the air will come on the upper side. Pneumatic system. So that was the ride, guys.
Drivers actually think that this can cover all of that. Could something similar happen here with the steering wheel issue as well? Well, I can't comment on that since the investigation is still ongoing. However, I'd like to mention that I personally think that there's very little chance of that. Like, how could someone deliberately undo a very important bolt in the car's structure? And not just that, but also then to drive around in it? Honestly, it's kind of becoming a running theme with Tesla vehicles. After all, they've faced so many problems in the past that I can't even recall all of them. For example, they were once requested by the NHTSA to recall about 135,000 vehicles because their touchscreen would just not work. Just like that, one time an over-the-air software update caused many cars to malfunction and do things that the drivers were not intending to do. From tire issues to dependence on autopilot causing literal deaths, Tesla has probably seen it all in a very short period of time. But there you have it. Those were the details about the latest investigation into Tesla vehicles.